Ida B., Chapter 18. Back at school, Miss Washington was trying to wear me down. Every day at recess, I'd sit on the steps. Every day, she'd come sit beside me and say, "Anything you want to talk about, Ida?" And every day, I'd say, "No, ma'am." But it got harder and harder to say no, ma'am, without looking at her, acting like she was a stranger, like it really was true that I didn't have anything I wanted to talk about. When somebody stops to talk every day and asks you about yourself and doesn't say anything to feel you're part of the conversation, just lets you choose if you want to feel it yourself, then it's hard to think that somebody's your enemy or to keep her so far away from your heart. It's hard not to trust somebody like that. And she was wearing me down in ways she probably didn't even intend to. Miss Washington would read to us every day after lunch, and her voice was like 10 different musical instruments. She could make her voice go low and deep and strong like a tuba, or hop, 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 quick and light like a flute. When she'd read, her voice wrapped around my head and my heart, and it softened and lightened everything up. It put a pain in my heart that felt good. When she told stories, it made me want to tell stories. I wanted to read like her so I could have that feeling anytime. Miss Washington would read real good books, too. Not silly ones where kids just learned how to behave right. The kids in her books did fun things, brave things, magical things. She'd walk by my desk and set a book on it. "I thought you might want to read this," she'd whisper. And I'd just leave it there, like I wasn't one bit interested. Then I'd slip it into my backpack at the end of the day. I'd take it out in my room at home with the door locked, and she was right. I did like it, a lot. But I wouldn't tell her. I practiced reading out loud like Miss Washington to Lulu and Rufus, but I did it in my room and quiet so Mama and Daddy didn't hear me. Rufus closed his eyes and looked so happy and peaceful, like I bet I looked when Miss Washington was reading. Lulu got bored fast and started scratching at the door to get out, but I didn't care, and I didn't take it personally. I just loved making words into stories by the sound of my voice. Miss W is what I'd started to call Miss Washington in my head, but never to her face. After a couple of weeks in that classroom. On a Wednesday during silent reading time, I peeked over my book to see what she was up to. And there she was, with her chin in her hand, tapping her pencil on her desk and staring straight back at me. As soon as she saw me looking, she smiled, got up from her chair, and started toward me. Now, I know what somebody looks like when she's putting together a plan. I could tell that woman was cooking up a big one, and I was the main ingredient. And I wasn't going to have any part of it, because that was what my heart had decided. Real quick, I turned myself forward again and put my book up in front of my face so I would look like I was too busy to be disturbed. But Miss W was on a mission, and she wasn't going to be disappointed. First, she sat next to me and brought my book so close, and I brought my book so close to my nose, they were almost touching. Then she moved her head next to mine, and real quiet, she almost whispered, "Ida, I need your help with something." And I got that good tingle up my neck and down my arms so the goosebumps come out, because she was making soft sounds next to my ear like my mama did. "I need you to help Ronnie learn his times table," she said, like a cat purring. "Do you think you could work with him? Teach him the way you learned them?" Well, it was like she'd charmed me, and I couldn't break the spell. My heart wanted to turn to her and say, cold and sharp, "I'd prefer not to, Miss Washington." Snap my head back forward, and that would be that. But instead, I just kept feeling her voice in my ear and all over, and I was nodding, not making any sounds like uh-huh, or yes, ma'am, that might interfere with the memory of that soft voice asking me so kindly for something that reminded me of what it felt like to be loved.